All right, today we're going to talk about our cities, and specifically, a really cool idea about how we can build them better. It's about getting past these old, stuck arguments and, well, looking to nature for a much smarter blueprint. So let's just dive right in. For as long as I can remember, the debate's been the same. To make cities better, you either build up, make them dense, or you build out, and you get sprawl. But what if both of those are just wrong? What if the real secret to a city that actually works, a city that's sustainable, livable, you name it, has been hiding right in front of us this whole time? I'm talking about the patterns you see in a tree's branches, in a river delta, even in your own lungs. Okay, so first, let's really get into the core problem here. This dilemma that's basically defined city planning forever. It feels like we're always stuck choosing between two options, and honestly, neither one is all that great. So on one side, you've got urban sprawl, and we all know the deal with that, right? The pollution from crazy long commutes, the massive energy bills, and just watching our natural landscapes disappear. But then, what's the alternative they always tell us? The compact city. Just pack everyone in. But that's no magic fix, is it? You end up with just as much traffic, maybe even worse congestion, these heat islands that make summers unbearable, and it totally ignores the fact that a lot of people just want a backyard, a little bit of green space. So yeah, we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. All right, so let's really dig into this idea that density is the answer to everything. Because when you actually look at the data, it tells a much, much more complicated story. I mean, just look at these graphs. They paint a really clear picture. On the left, you can see how suburban populations just boomed, especially after the 70s. People wanted space, right? Makes sense. But then, look at the graph on the right. What happened? A total explosion in daily commutes. Everyone who moved out to the burbs had to drive right back into the city for work. So we tried to escape the city, and in doing so, we created this monster of daily traffic.
And it turns out, this big push for high-density living, it comes with its own set of problems. It's kind of ironic, actually. The research shows that when you force too much density, it can totally backfire. People who really want some peace and quiet, some nature, they just move even further away, creating, you guess it, more sprawl. And it's not a guarantee for less car use. Nope. Sometimes it just means you're jamming more cars into the same small area. And at the end of the day, it just flies in the face of what a lot of people actually want. Surveys consistently show that most folks would love a house with a little garden.
So here's the bottom line. Both sprawl and super dense cities are flawed. They're just not the complete answer, which really makes you wonder, right? Is there another way? Is there a third option out there? A model that could maybe give us the best of both worlds without all the terrible downsides? And this is where things get really interesting, because the answer might come from a place you'd never expect, from the basic mathematical patterns that nature uses to build, well, everything. We need to talk about fractals. So what on earth is a fractal? In the simplest terms, it's just a pattern that keeps repeating itself, no matter how close you look. Think about a tree branch. A tiny little twig has the same basic branching shape as the big limb it grew from, which has the same shape as the whole tree. That's a fractal. It's called self-similarity. And it's not just pretty to look at, it's one of the most efficient ways in the universe to fill a space and connect things together. Okay, so how do you build one? It's actually way simpler than it sounds. You just start with a super basic shape, what they call a generator. In this case, it's just a simple cross. That's it. That's our starting block. Now for step 2. We take that same cross shape and we just stick it onto the end of each line of the first cross. And just like that, you can already see something more complex starting to form, all from that one simple rule. Okay, let's do it one more time and boom. Look at that. With just one more step, you've got this amazing complex network. It looks just like blood vessels or the roots of a tree, doesn't it? It's designed to perfectly fill the space around it and connect everything efficiently. So, here's the big question. What if we took that same powerful natural logic and used it to design a city? And that brings us to the big idea from the source material. A new model for cities called Fractapolis. All right, check this out. On the left, that's the old way of thinking about cities. Everything's a neat little hexagon, a dot on a map, it's rigid, it's mechanical, and nature is somewhere else. Now look to the right. That's Fractapolis. See the difference? It's still got centers of different sizes, but the game-changing idea is what's between them. These green corridors that aren't just on the outside, but actually weave their way deep into the heart of the city. And the benefits here are just huge. First off, green space isn't an afterthought. It's not some park you have to drive to. It's baked into the design at every single level. The city is also organized in a really smart way, with a hierarchy of centers. So the stuff you need every day is right around the corner, but you can easily get to bigger centers for more specialized things. And here's a key part. It forces new development to follow public transit lines. This stops the city from just endlessly sprawling and chopping up both nature and our neighborhoods into disconnected pieces. Oh, and those green corridors? They literally act like ventilation shafts, helping to cool the entire city down. It's brilliant.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds great in theory, but how could you possibly build something like this in the real world? Well, let's break down the actual steps. The process is actually surprisingly straightforward. Step 1, you figure out your main metropolitan center. Easy enough. Step 2, you identify the next level of important, secondary centers. And, this is crucial, you draw the lines for the transit routes and green corridors that connect everything. Then, you just do it again for the next level down, for the smaller subcenters. You're creating that repeating, nested pattern. And the most important rule of all new construction has to happen inside these zones, leaving those green corridors untouched. And hey, this isn't just some fantasy on a whiteboard. This is a real-world example from a town in Germany called Bretten. See how the new development areas, the orange and blue bits, are all clustered right around the train line? They're all within walking distance. They even added new train stops to make it work better. This is the core idea in action. You let the transit lines guide where you build, instead of just building anywhere and hoping the roads can handle it.
So, where does this leave us? What does all this mean for the future? Is it really possible to design better cities? To think our way out of the mess we're in? I think the most powerful idea to take away from this is that the choice between sprawl and density, it's a false choice. We don't have to pick one. Fractapolis shows us a third way forward. It's a path that gives us organized, convenient cities that are also deeply connected with the nature that we all need to thrive. The researchers behind this really hit the nail on the head. They wrote, instead of simply rejecting urban sprawl, it seems more efficient to reflect on how urbanization might be channeled. And that's it, right there. The point isn't to just stop growth. It's about being smarter about it. It's about guiding that growth into a shape that's healthier and just works better for everyone.
Which leaves us with one last question to chew on. For the last 100 years or so, we've built our cities to look like machines, like grids on a piece of paper. So maybe the question we should be asking is, what if our future cities could look less like a grid and a lot more like a forest?